Have you ever thought about how Jesus would introduce you? If he stood before a crowd and called your name, what would he say? Would he bring up your past mistakes, your weaknesses, or the labels others have placed on you? Or would he speak to something deeper, something true about who you really are? Zacchaeus probably wondered the same thing. People had already decided who he was: small, dishonest, unworthy. And when he heard Jesus was coming through town, he knew he had to go see him. But the crowd wasn't going to make it easy for him. So he did something unexpected, and that's where everything changed. Join us for today's Coffee with Jesus as we take a fresh look at Zacchaeus' story and discover what happened when Jesus called him by name. The answer just might surprise you. Most of us, if we're honest, would find it easy to introduce ourselves as if the enemy were speaking, listing our failures, regrets, and flaws. But Jesus doesn't see us through that lens. He sees us as we truly are, as he intended us to be. Now let's consider Zacchaeus. We've always been told that he was a wee little man, like the song says, too short to see over the crowd. But what if that wasn't about the physical height at all? What if the real issue of how others saw him was because of his character? In their eyes, they made him small. Zacchaeus was a tax collector, a man with a bad reputation. People despised him, believing he collaborated with their oppressors and took advantage of them. Maybe when they called him small, they weren't talking about stature, but about his worth, because to them, he was nothing. A man of low morals, a man unworthy of grace. When Zacchaeus heard Jesus was coming, he wanted to see him, but the crowd wouldn't let him through. They closed ranks, making sure he wouldn't get ahead. Not because he was short, but because they didn't want him there. They blocked his way and refused to move. Maybe they muttered insults under their breath, making sure he knew just how unwelcome he was. But Zacchaeus had to see Jesus. He climbed a sycamore tree because that was the only way he could rise above the rejection and to lift himself higher than the people who looked down at him. Then something incredible happened. Jesus, walking through the crowd, stopped and he looked up. He didn't just glance, he saw him, a man overlooked, cast aside, ridiculed. And then Jesus did something even more shocking. He called Zacchaeus by his name. Zacchaeus! His name actually means pure and innocent one. And the crowd must have gasped, pure and innocent? Him? Didn't Jesus know who he was? Of course he did. Jesus knew everything about Zacchaeus, the good, the bad, and the ugly. But he didn't call him a sinner, a thief, or a traitor. He called him by the name that spoke to who he truly was, the name that revealed the man God created him to be, not the man the world saw. Zacchaeus must have been stunned. He was expecting shame, condemnation. Maybe he had spent years believing he was nothing more than what the people said about him. But Jesus saw something different. He saw redemption. He saw worth. He saw a man desperate for change. How do you think Zacchaeus felt in that moment? How would you feel if Jesus looked at you, past your mistakes, past your reputation, past your own self-doubt, and called you by the name he gave you? Because he does. No matter what you've done, no matter what others think of you, no matter what you think of yourself, Jesus sees you as he made you. He calls you beloved, chosen, redeemed. He calls you pure and innocent, not because of your perfection, but because of his grace. So if Jesus were to introduce you today, what would he say? It probably wouldn't be what you expect, but it would be the truth.